brief topic, but one I'm definitely interested to know your thoughts on. And it's funny because a lot of the recommendations, our content recommendation that we provide today is war show related. What show grabbed your attention from episode 1? Man, there's so many classic shows that came out throughout time, and some of them are so classic and cult classic and maybe even trash to this day. And one thing that is a conversation that people always talk about is like a show or a movie or something that grabs you from like the jump, like off the bat. It's this is going to be the one. And a lot of shows do have that. There are some shows that are more slow build, but some shows like from the jump, this is something that's gonna keep you glued to your seat. So I'm interested to know what y'all think, and I guess we can just go through this. What some of the users have said, get some ideas. If you guys do need a second to think about, scroll over this. So one person says Desperate Housewives. I've never consumed it, so I can't speak on that one. Breaking Bad. I've actually never seen it myself, but this is one show that probably people would put on like the top 10 shows of all time, maybe even higher than that.
Top 1. Oh, I don't know about that, but it's close.
Keep going. How to Get Away with Murder. I also can't speak too much on it, but I mean, with an actress like that, I probably does. It probably is a banger. What else? The Boys. The Boys on my list.
Oh shoot, I forgot. That was a good opening episode.
The Boys on my list. I actually probably never seen really bad reviews about Boys. The Boys. Keep going. The Bear, man. Nah, this might be one of my answers. The Bear is a banger from the Bear.
I think we watched that one together. I think that might have been the only episode of the show you watched. Oh no, I think we might have watched the first 2 episodes.
What else? Lost. Lost is a old ass show when you think about it in the grand scheme of things. Lost might be 20 years old at this point. I've actually never seen it, but it is on my list to go back and watch. Not to go back, but to go and watch it one day. What else they got? The Wire. If you are a fan of the culture, you know about The Wire, or at least you know that meme where the guy turns around like. But yeah, I've maybe lose some credit, but I actually have not seen. I only seen clips, but I've definitely you only hear good things about The Wire. And Snowfall, is that the last one out there? Snowfall. Spoiler: I'm gonna have some things to say about Snowfall in just a second. That's all I'm gonna say. What was that next one? Invincible. Invincible is definitely. I feel as if Invincible is one of those shows that took the internet by storm. I don't know if people, because it's like this is definitely not one of the comedies that people are super in the know about. So Invincible is definitely a show that like you just peep in because people are talking about it, and then once you find out what's going on, you're like, yeah, this is something. Go back to that first slide just so it's not on any one thing. Oh, and also there might be some spoilers in the conversation. Spoiler, and I actually want to ask all about some shows specifically. So I know spoiler culture is everyone cries about it. So I'm telling you now. There's gonna be some spoilers. If you don't like spoilers, even though it would suck, but get out. So let's start with you, Ghost. What would you say is a show that grabbed your attention from the first episode, from the jump?
I'm gonna cheat again. I don't have one specific answer. More so a few different episodes that have come to mind. And I think something that does help a lot is how good is it relative to the rest of the show? Because you can have a good first episode, but if it isn't as good as some of the better episodes of the later episodes of the season or whatever, then you kind of get some points knocked down, in my opinion. With all that being said, I would say I can list 5.
Top 5 dead or alive.
Yeah, Game of Thrones, super excellent, compelling. Legion, I love that the
Well,
first
so
couple episodes are so good.
slow down, because some of us haven't seen some of these shows. I've never seen Game of Thrones, another show I've never seen because it got too much hype. Uh, Even though it says there's gonna be spoilers, without providing any spoilers, what about Game of Thrones was dope from the beginning?
Um, I mean, just the way it kind of immediately throws you into the plot. I still remember the opening scene, and I didn't really know what's going on, but just the way that it's put together, it's like you can immediately tell within the first 5 episodes, like, yeah, the show's gonna be great. And that was one aspect of it. There were a couple very good character moments in the first episodes, and the episode was dope. I'm trying to work around these spoilers here.
No, no, you
But
answered my question. You don't have to go. You don't go deeper. And then you said Legion. What genre is Legion?
uh I don't know, sci-fi, I guess. I haven't actually finished Legion,
Hmm.
but I've watched the first few episodes, and that first episode was so good.
I mean,
Um,
it's just like a superhero joint. I mean,
Kind of,
yeah,
very,
adjacent.
yeah, very adjacent, but yeah, first episode was super good. I don't recall a whole lot of plot points from it, to be honest. I just remember like, holy shit, this is good, and the rest of the show wasn't as good, unfortunately, but it was still decent from what I watched. Um, what was I gonna say? Okay, Fargo. That first episode of Fargo was super good, especially because I have not seen the movies, so I had no clue what was really going to happen. What the
You never
theme
seen the
of it
movies.
was.
Why'd you watch the shows?
I mean, it's not really, Fargo is kind of not. The show was more of an anthology
No, I
than
know it's not.
following the movies
Spoiler.
directly.
I know it's not related to the movie all too much. But like, what compels you to watch the show then?
I just saw it was on FX, and FX usually has good shows, so I was like, yeah, let's check this out.
Fair enough.
And yeah, it was super great. And the end of the episode was super surprising as well. Was not expecting it. No spoilers again, but yeah, it was very well done. Second place
Well, you're
would
on like four, but or you're going up. You're going from five to top. I said. I guess.
yeah, five down to this is my second. I would say House of Cards. That first episode with House of Cards, especially that first opening scene, was like top tier television. It's it does a perfect job of introducing you to the characters, immediately like wraps you in the world, and I wouldn't say you're rooting for the main MC, but you're definitely he's super compelling without a doubt. Just from the very first few minutes. Um and yeah, it's again, I'm not going to go into the full details of it, but it was really good. Um, yeah, and then number one for me would be Lost.
Oh,
To
really?
stereotypical answer, another show I technically haven't finished. I've watched a few seasons of, but first episode of Lost is looked at as pretty much the pinnacle of TV, especially TV openers, and it lives up to that mantra without a doubt. So
Damn.
yeah, I would put
Yeah.
Lost there.
Like I said, it's on my list, but no, I'm definitely. Okay.
Like the first few seasons of Lost might be the best TV, the
All right.
best
Now let's
mystery
not gas
drama.
it up too much.
You have. I'm not gassing it. I'm not gassing it. If you've seen it, you know I'm not gassing it. It's that
Fair,
good.
fair enough. Fair enough. How about you, Ace? What is a show that caught your attention, had you glued to the screen from episode one?
All right, so Invincible is definitely on the list. Um,
Solid answer.
yeah, and I think the reason is I think the reason for most is like a twist ending in the beginning or in the at the end of a first episode is a really good way to hook people. And Invincible definitely had that. Like one of the greatest, like just baffling, like what happened, what is going on. Just great way to kick off the season. Like amazing, amazing. Um, so yeah, Invincible, and I got a few more that I can remember. Westworld is another one.
I was low key thinking about that.
Yeah, the way that one starts and like kind of, the exposition is great. You know, it's I mean, the whole idea of it being um being like robots or whatever kind of gaining consciousness, and whether that's going to happen and how that's going to happen, um and the way that plays out kind of begins to play out through Dolores's story in that first episode. It's very compelling, and again, like there was a slight twist at the end of the first episode that kind of hooks you to want to see what happens for the rest of the season. um and then I think the last one that I can say for sure, based on well, actually, I will second Game of Thrones because that one does have a twist ending too. And then, yeah, the one that I will say, the last one I'll say for sure is Fringe. I don't know if you guys probably remember that.
Fringe is a classic.
I haven't seen that show. It's on my
Fringe
list.
is a if you know, you know.
Yeah, yeah, it was basically a like a more modern update on X Files. But the first episode of that show gets into like, I mean, you get introduced to this professor character who like did some experimentation with the government back in the, I think, like 60s, on like alt- altering mind states and things like that. And like um yeah, just the character expositions are there's, and his son is in it who's like a con man. He's a genius, but yeah, he's a con man, and like there's just very good characters, um, very good plot, and like I was always into sci-fi, so that angle of it really hooked me. And yeah, it the first season, the first few seasons, like they really didn't let up in the kind of episodic. They had like a monster of the week type of pattern, but there was also a overall overarching um, plot in the background that kind of slowly opened up over those first few seasons. So yeah, that was a great show. But yeah, that first episode definitely, especially when I was like teenager when that thing came out, it was very mind blowing.
Got you. I actually have several myself. If you know me, I'm more of a consumer of anime. Obviously, I've watched just as much, if not shows, as the next person. But if we're talking about my top tier content, I'm purely going to for the animes. So I do got a couple of animes in mind. One being Bleach. Bleach is very, very iconic to me. And of course, you could apply a lot of other shonen anime or shonen related content into that, but like I kind of just Bleach for me is kind of like I remember the time and place, and it kind of has a really great setup for the story we're about to jump into. So yeah, and I'm thinking like out of the big three, and I have a question regarding the big three being Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece. I'm thinking like which one had like the best first episode to me, IMO, and I think Bleach is just a bit higher in my mind. Naruto's first episode was relatively good as well. And then I have one other anime. You know what's interesting? Because I actually have some other. You know what's interesting to me? I think when we think of, and some of these examples even on this slide, we're like, I think this typically applies to like drama shows or like shows where there's action or like science fiction. But you never really think about like comedies, or I think you might not. But some of the first episodes of shows that I think were bangers, and maybe not having glue in the seats, I'm thinking like what's gonna happen, but I was able to like laugh and able to like link with the show immediately. Like, this is going to be one of my favorite shows. For me, it would be an anime that's also a comedy. That's also a lot of other things. Is Gintama. I've spoken very highly of Gintama before, and I will always do it because it's literally probably the greatest series of all time across many medias. But Gintama's first episode is funny. You don't really understand what's going on, and like it's just so worth sticking to it because it's like it really like it's just really like what's going on. And then like speaking of comedies, another one that I remember relatively vividly is Arrested Development. Arrested Development's first episode is relatively like funny and like kind of like I guess the best way to describe a lot of comedies on the first episode is like what's going on, and enough so that I'm laughing or invested enough towards I would say this is something I'm going to stick with. So yeah, when it comes to genres outside of like dramas, those I would say those are some top tier shows that from the first episode I was like, all right, I'm watching all this. So those are definitely my answers, and I guess another question that comes out of this is, and I guess ideally the answer is going to be yes, but do y'all think a show needs to grab you from the beginning, or do you more so subscribe to like you're down for kind of like waiting to see if it picks up? What do you think, Ace?
I can definitely wait and see. And I mean, one of the best examples of that for me was um The Expanse. Like, but I guess I do have to I do have to have some like foreknowledge that is supposed to get
Recommendation
better.
that's good.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. If nobody has recommended it to me, or if it's not on some list, like I'm not gonna just pour time into something that may or may not get better.
So that's probably why you stuck with the one thing I'm about to bring up. And I meant to text you about this week, but I was kind of busy, so I didn't find time to actually get into a conversation with you. Do you apply it to One Piece
No, because I liked One Piece the from the beginning.
from the beginning?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. The stereotypical thing, like running gag when it comes to One Piece, or people that haven't seen it, is like it gets good after a while. But the gag is One Piece literally has 1,000+ episodes, and I was thinking about that recently for whatever reason,
Yeah.
and I realized one, it's kind of right, and two, it's just like what does motivate a person to stick with something after a while? Obviously, One Piece is not bad from the beginning, from the first arcs. I was thinking in terms of arcs, not just the first episodes. Some of the first arcs are not. I mean, all the first arcs are relatively have a value in their own meaning, on their own right. But One Piece really starts to get hard once like they get kind of past like Arlong arc. That was hard. I'm not gonna say it wasn't hard.
Yeah.
But it starts to get like consistently like this is my show. I'm rooting for these guys. Once they get to the Grand Line, and once Luffy starts struggling, once he starts fighting guys that isn't okay, I see your gimmick, but once I'm gonna get you. Once he starts struggling, that's when I'm like, this is it. So I was kind of curious to know what you thought about that. Like I was gonna ask you like when do you really get into it? But I guess like you say you were attached from the jump, which is
Yeah,
fine.
I mean, it is kind of tough looking back. Like, I don't look at it the same way I look at The Expanse. The Expanse truly, like the whole first season, pretty much, I was like, I struggled. But but with One Piece, like there is a certain element of if I just in a complete island to my own, didn't know what One Piece was, and I just tried it, and nobody else had recommended it, I don't necessarily know that I would have continued with it. Probably not. But at the same time, it did not take that long for me to get into it because like it has a very specific sense of humor. It has a very specific way it tells the story, the way the you know the way it just introduces tons of characters that become very I don't know, compelling very quickly.
Yeah.
um it still works in its own unique way, so it didn't take me as long to get into it and be like, yeah, I could keep going with this, like this is kind of dope. um but yeah, I mean, at the same time, like, again, if I was just on an island, didn't know anything about it, it after the first after reading the first chapter, I don't know if I would have stuck with it. The show is kind of tough to me in general, though. Like, I still can't really
And there's
get into the
filler up in
show.
there in some places. Oh my god.
Yeah, the show is tough in general, but yeah, either way, like it would have taken um a few chapters or whatever to really hook me.
Fair enough. What about you, Ghost? Do you, when you're watching the show, does it need to capture you from like the rip, or are you more inclined? Do you think shows deserve like a little time to warm up?
Um, Kind of the same as Ace. Like if I've gotten a recommendation that this show's gonna be good eventually, I'll probably stick with it. If I haven't gotten any recommendations, it depends, like, for one, what type of show it is. Like if it's a um comedy, my standards are a lot different than if it's a drama. And if it has some elements, like if I think it has potential, then I'll stick with it for a couple episodes. If not, or if I think it'll be boring, I will literally just go online, look at the synopsis of the season, and call it a day. Because
Jesus,
I know a show that I've done that for recently.
you gotta at least watch a YouTube analyst.
No, no, no. I read that shit a couple minutes and I'm straight. I saw the first episode of Silo, and it was kind of interesting, but the way the episode ended, it was like, what's the season gonna be about? And I read the synopsis and I was like, damn, I'm glad I didn't watch the entire season of this. So
Silo's supposed to be good though. What happened?
I don't know. You might like it, but I don't want to spoil. But
No, don't spoil it. I'm gonna watch it, but yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
a decent amount of stuff goes on in the first episode, and it's not even a bad first episode. But where it leaves off, it's like, okay, what now? And yeah, the answer wasn't too promising for me. So it really depends. Like nowadays, I kind of have lower standards, or higher standards, I should say. I don't want to waste my time on something I'm not going to enjoy.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a show that, like, I really did not like the first episode, but I came around to the rest of the series. It's tough to think of one, to be honest. But yeah.
I know I got something to get off my heart, something to get off my chest when it comes to first experience or something. Who else seen Snowfall here? Is you're the one that watched it, Ghost?
You know what's funny? I watched the first episode of Snowfall and I haven't picked it back up.
Really?
I am gonna go back and watch it eventually, but I wasn't like, it wasn't bad, but I wasn't like super compelled. I didn't go as far as like watch the entire or read the entire synopsis of the show, but I was like, it's okay. I'll watch it eventually.
Well, I'm glad you said it, or someone else said it, because I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be all the way honest. If I was watching Snowfall when everyone else was watching it, and everyone else was saying it's Snowfall and Power, and these shows are the top of the top, and I think there was even at one point a conversation between Snowfall and The Wire, and I haven't watched The Wire yet.
Oh my God.
But I'm just saying, I'm watching Snowfall for the first time, and I will interject myself and say I'm a completionist, so I'm gonna watch it all. There's no way I'm gonna stop, no matter what I'm currently feeling. But as far as like Snowfall being a classic, and everyone saying Franklin is like a top tier character, off the gate, I can't co-sign that. And if I was watching Snowfall with everybody else back in the day, I would have been looking at everyone else saying, this is the guy we're rooting for.
Why do you think he's a bitch made pro tag?
See, you're gonna stop instigating.
I know who
Stop
you
instigating and
dislike.
just trying to make me come on here and say something I don't mean.
I don't think he was
I don't
that
think.
bad in the first episode, but I agree he wasn't super compelling to start.
The crazy thing, I'm expanding it to the whole first season. I'm gonna
Oh,
be
you
honest.
watched the whole first season?
I'm gonna be honest.
I don't think I
Man,
gotta watch the show now.
I
It takes
ain't.
the whole season to get good.
Well,
Like
let's be
that first
clear.
episode.
Let's be clear. If you know anything about Snowfall, it's not just about this one single character, like following him around 24/7.
Yeah.
There are other really good elements of the show, and I would say it has all the makings of a dope show off the bat. But I'm just saying, as far as like, if you don't know anything about Snowfall, you know the name Franklin, and you know Dempson Edris, or however you say the homeboy's last name. And I'm sure he does become dope at some point. But as the first season, I don't know. I don't know if it's the writer's choice or if the way his character is. I ain't rooting for him, and that's all I'll say without getting into too much more. I ain't rooting for him, not because I don't like, and I'm against like people that are in the line of what the show's about, but his character, nah.
Interesting. I don't think I'm gonna watch the first season now. 'Cause I 100% from the first episode that I've seen, I agree with your take. You know what's funny? I actually liked the first season of Power, which I haven't gone back and watched anymore. But I like the first season of Power, or the first episode of it, more than I liked Snowfall. But
I
I
just
dropped it
like,
because of one specific character.
and that's why I was so interested in coming in here and having this conversation. Obviously, we were kind of more just talking about shows that have caught our attention from the road, but it's like one. Like I said, I do believe Snowfall will become the show that everybody acknowledges and respects it for. But I'm surprised with the first season that it became like that. That's all. That's what I'm saying. So maybe it was one of those shows where people wasn't into it back in the day, but then at first, and then once the seasons got progressed and it did get better, then people went back and watched it. And I'm thinking it's going to be more like that. This is the first season.
Yeah, I think that's what it was, because I remember when it came out and some of the buzz around it. It wasn't like people were saying it was good, but people weren't saying like, "Oh, this is a much watch for the culture." It wasn't anything like that.
No, absolutely not. But yeah, this is not like a slander topic. Ultimately, yeah, I mean, there's been so many classics that come out, and like to recall like every show and every first episode that we ever watched would be too much of a task. But I think the ones that do come to our mind do speak volumes. And yeah, I think I'm actually a person that will let a show slow build. I don't think there's anything wrong with the first episode not being like the most explosive. Like you got like something. I mean, it has to have some elements that'll pull you in, but it doesn't have to be like the best episode of the entire season. But it definitely speaks volume in it. And also, I guess there is a question of like, what would you prefer, like a show that has a banger first episode, but then it starts to get mid throughout the season, or a show that has a slow first episode, but then it gets way better throughout the season. I guess just real quick, which one? I mean, I think like the answer is obvious, but is there anyone that would prefer the other option?
I prefer the second, as long as I know that it gets good.
No, you don't know it gets good. You're
Oh,
just
if
going
I
to
don't know, yeah, the first option, because again, I'll get hooked and I'll stick it out. But if I don't get hooked, I'm not gonna stick it out.
Yeah, that's probably true. Like it probably doesn't even matter the genre or anything. If the first episode doesn't hook you, I mean, yeah, I would just legit wait until everybody else watches the rest of the season.
See, that's why I say some of y'all sound like fake fans. I'll need other people to. Let me not. Anyway,
I think especially for comedies, for me, like 1,000% for comedies. I don't like one thing that comes to mind for me is Schitt's Creek. That first episode was not funny at all, and people say, "Oh, it gets so funny, get so good." I'm not. If the first episode isn't funny, and that's the first thing you're putting out, I don't have any trust in the rest of your show. Dramas, I'll give it more of a chance. Comedies, you got that one episode. If it's not funny, then you're done.
Fair enough. Wait, oh no, I'm muted now.
You're on mute, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I can see it. Anyway, fair enough. Yeah. Salute to all the writers that can hook people from the jump, and also salute to all the writers that have a plan for you to get more hooked on throughout the season. But if nothing else, we can move on to the next topic.